All right, so hey there. This is kind of the beginning of a live stream just on the basic mechanicals and assembly and whatnot of the Voron 2. So I just finished rebuilding mine today. I'm not going to get into software configuration or printing or anything else like that tonight, just because I don't feel like it. But I want to at least help out and see if I couldn't help some folks with some questions on how they get working and how they get moving and everything else. Uh, let's see, right now I'm talking to myself apparently. So just pop into chat if you have questions, concerns, comments, etc., etc., etc. Let me know if you can or can't hear me, anything like that. This is kind of a work in progress. I've got YouTube chat open, and also I'll be bouncing in and out of Slack if you're paying attention there. And let me see if I can find a link to this. All right, let's see. So yeah, drop questions in chat and I will do my best to answer them. And if it gets too cranky, I'll move to a different computer that'll have the computational ass to handle this. So looking in Slack, one guy was having questions about stoppers and rails and everything like that. Uh, Sometimes you'll get your rails with stoppers in them. Sometimes you won't. If you do not have stoppers in them, it was suggested in Slack that use zip ties to hold it on there. Good idea. You don't want things sliding off of those rails. One second, let me grab mine and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alrighty then. So I am going to bounce to a different camera really quick. I apologize, this one is not nearly as nice as my other one, but can you see this rail here? No, didn't change scenes in, there we go. All right, so this is one of your basic rails. You can see you've got stoppers on either end, and OBS is not happy. Wee bit of lag, but no biggie. So, anyways, rearranging stuff so I can see. This is one of your rails. These are the stoppers that we're talking about, and as we go, you need to actually make sure these stoppers are in, zip ties otherwise, because if these slide off, these MGN9 carriages don't really have any good ball bearing retention, which means your carriage will slide off and your ball bearings will go all over the place. And when they do so, your printer and you will be unhappy. Thankfully, you can buy MGN9s just by themselves on eBay. They're about 10 bucks, but when you're paying 12 bucks plus shipping from China for this whole assembly, best not to throw bad money after good, or good money after bad, depending on your point of view. So, jumping back. So, what questions do you guys have for me? I am pretty much here for you guys. So just to, oh wait, one second, it is backwards. That is a downright shame. Let's fix this. Yep. All right. So there is no super chat because I am a slacker and have totally done this just because I was bored, I'm lazy, and yeah, there'll probably be super chat and everything else at some point in time. But right now, this is totally. I got a new webcam this afternoon and figured the hell with it, why not? So cleaning process. A couple of things going on with that. Let me switch scenes really quick. Uh, and no, that was not rail cleaning. Shut up, Maglin. I want to ask you. All right, so your rail right here. When you get your rail from the factory, it will have all kinds of wonderful Chinesium crap on it. Probably won't run really well, and just generally don't install it like that. Maglin put a very good video out on how he did it, and I can't really add to it. He'll probably drop that link in the chat here shortly. But Simple Green is a cleaner and degreaser and everything else that basically we use to get all the Chinese crap oil off of these things. So what I did is I got Simple Green and a pump sprayer, sprayed down all these rails, scrubbed them out or scrubbed them down really well. Do not remove the carriage, as I said. Do not remove the carriage, please. Uh, and so you just scrub it down with that, get all the schmoo off. I use blue shot cloths, and then so what I did is it looks kind of white in this video because of a cheap webcam that I'm using for kind of a secondary angle. But so you use just a blue shot cloth or a paper towel or something. What you want to do is you'll see this section right here, the actual rail channel, which is kind of glary right here, but you'll see it when you have it in your hands. You'll want to run something down that just to make sure there's no shavings or anything else in there, and just clean it out. Then what I do is just to clean everything off again is I'll get some rubbing alcohol and a pump sprayer once again and spray it down on after all of that, get it good and done. And then what you do is you use the lubricant of your choice. What you see here on mine is white lithium grease, just because that's what I have. Super lube is what Russian cat food himself recommends, and I see nothing wrong with that. It's just, once again, I had white lithium. Uh, Volcom recommends uh, Volcom V2002. He's one of the guys who really helps out on this project and helped design a lot of the mods that some of you guys are using for V1. He recommends marine lithium grease. Once again, I see nothing wrong with that. I just had this on hand. Uh, Alec, yes, no stoppers. Zip ties, as was said in Slack, put zip ties in there, hold it in there. Life is good. Just don't pull the carriage off. Don't let the carriage slide off. Uh, the other thing you can do is you can get an M3 bolt that is slightly longer than you need. And I'm just going to kind of improvise this really quick if I can find an M3 nut of some way, shape, or form. Maybe. Oh, I don't have any M3 nuts handy. But yeah, so just get an M3 nut in there and toss it in there, and you can use that as a stopper as well. Just an M3, basically a T-nut on one side, a T-nut on the other. Anything to keep it from exceeding the end of the rail. Uh, so yeah, there's that. What else you guys got for me? Let's see. All right. So I guess I'll jump to another thing that people have asked me a fair bit about. This right here is very high bond tape, 3N very high bond. I'll put a link to it in chat or somewhere here in a little bit. But this is what I use to attach the locks to actually the plexi itself for the door. And it works really well. It is, as the name implies, very high bond. Sticks well, and away we go. Actually, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to shift scenes really quick. No, you guys can deal with some motion sickness. So, very high bond tape is what I am using to adhere that light rail to the rear extrusion as well. The light rail is one of those things I added to my V2 that I think is a huge quality of life improvement. And so, yeah, uh, just patched it into your 12-volt power supply, and we call it good. So since you guys aren't asking questions, I'll just kind of start tossing out some of the tools that I use that I found super helpful in the course of this thing. And if you have questions, just bounce them off of me. Leave them in chat. I'm kind of roaming around the joys of Bluetooth. And yeah. What else? What else? What else? We'll grab those two. You guys are just going to kind of be at my mercy as far as to what is shiny and interesting as I am grabbing stuff. All right. Yep. Checking on the V1. It's happy. All right. Alec, there is only the light on the back rail right now. I could totally be pulling light on the front rail as well. I just only got one. They're $12 or so on Amazon, and I went with the warm white as opposed to the true white, just because I figured it would look a little classier like that. Let's see. All right, various tools, crimpers, and everything else. And I will attempt to show how to do a crimp on a PA09. My crimping skills aren't the world's best, I freely admit. So you kind of missed the rail buttering tutorial. Let's see, extra Z drive assembly. Let me see, I don't have one spare, but I can try and show you guys what they look like in place assembled. Renegade, what are you specifically wanting to see on one of those? Let me know, and I'll actually move the camera around, and you can kind of talk me through what you're looking to see, and I'll talk you through what you need to see. Let me also grab my shitty ratcheting crimpers, because I will try and show you why I hate them so much. People will say, oh, but hey, they're cheap. They're $20 versus PA09s or $35, $40. And let's be honest, you're going to buy the cheap ones, realize how much you hate them, and then drop the $30, $40 on PA09s and realize, that, hey, that sucks. All right, the things next to the snips. So these thingies right here, these are a set of automatic wire strippers that I got that they work okay. Once again, a case of buying cheap tools. They work. They're happier on thicker gauge wire than they are on thinner gauge wire. Not really happy on thinner gauges, so just pay your money, take your chances there. Let's see. I got Bontus, some of their Allen wrenches that are the color-coded ones. It makes finding them a little easier and keeping track of them, because I am notorious for losing Allen wrenches. All right, let's see. If there are spacers which need to go between the bearings, no. On the shaft of my Mobius drives, there are no spacers or anything. It is, only thing that it's there is just the pulley, the bearings, and the other pulley. No spacers or anything else. The Mobius assembly itself will actually work to handle the spacing and gapping for you. I don't have a spare, I don't think. Let's see, are any of these shafts ground down? Ha! So, this one, there we go, that should work. Is that an 05? That is an 05. So, I may just actually be able to oblige you after all. Let's see, there's that. And that. So, looks like I will be able actually to quickly go over this. Let me grab my box of printed parts here. All right. And yes, you can use the Harbor Freight ones. I just like these because they were pretty colors and made in the USA. All right, so let me clean off my workspace here. We'll get into a discussion of snips and crimps and everything else here later. Maglin has been raving about his engineer scissors that he got that I am highly envious of. I hate you, just for the record. All right, so let's see. We have 42's pulley, and count your teeth. Make sure they're 40 teeth. I think that's one of my 40 tooth ones. I have some that came that were supposed to be 40s, and they were actually 28 tooth. Yeah, I know, right? Gotta love that quality control. So, shaft that I put the flat onto, I'll show you in a little bit. The 110 millimeter belt, there's that. And then, so I'm actually going to be using some of the parts I did for one of the Slack chat members who I'm doing a print it forward build for. I hope he doesn't mind too much. I figure it's for the good of the community, and he's not paying for them anyways. So, I apologize for the lighting and whatnot. Trunk Monkey, thank you for that suggestion. I will check those out. Yeah, let me swap cameras here. All right. This is going to be a little bit of manual jiggery pokery and whatnot, just because I've got to rearrange. And okay. All right, let's see what this looks like. We are doing this totally live, but hey, the picture looks a whole lot better, doesn't it now? All right, so swapping to a better camera. All right, so you've got your Z-Mobius base here, as you guys can see it. Let's actually get this a little bit closer, maybe. Hey, awesome. And yes, you cannot be a professional streamer, or even an unprofessional streamer, without the totally awesome cutting mat. It's a requirement, like something in the code. Don't ask me, I don't make the rules. Anyways, so you have got your printed parts here. Z-Mobius base, Z-Mobius lid. Let me make sure these actually line up. Oh, they do. Awesome. So how this goes together is, let me find that small Allen wrench. And I'm not going to go through the step of Loctiting everything down or anything like that. And also not going to go through and fully build one of these things. But what you look for is, let me break that free there. And break that free there. All right. So you want the set screw on one of the shafts, or on the flat of this. Let's see there. So you can see how there is a flat ground onto that. Then you're going to put a pulley on. I didn't totally grind these down as far as I should have, so they're a little bit cranky on my pulley, or with the pulleys going on. That's why this is one of the ones in my parts bin. So what we do, looking at this, you will see this notch right here. Is there a focus button on this thing? I don't know. All right, there is a notch here that this bearing sits down in. And so that bearing sitting in that notch, that little tooth of that notch, that right there is the spacer you have to worry about. So, and I don't have this thing fully aligned or anything like that, but it will look like this without the 20-tooth pulley in here. So, does that answer your question? Here I am throwing things around now. Awesome. Let me toss these back really quick, and we will come back to whatever questions you may have. Ask away. I am on you guys' payroll. And if you don't have questions, I will just start dropping links to stuff I have, stuff I like, and things that generally amuse me. Let's see. I was going for something. Oh, yes. One thing on the rails. So, that right there. This is a blunt tip syringe filled with white lithium grease. I use this to put a bead down each one of the inside lines of that rail, as well as actually try and get up in that rail carriage to pump some grease in there. It's kind of hit or miss, but it's better than nothing. You can find those on Amazon. Once again, I'll link them here in a little bit. All right, let's see. Where is my bin of Molexes? Somewhere. I've got my bin of Molexes somewhere. I know I do. Just don't remember where. That's better. All right. Maybe showing you guys how I do this with some of the Molex KK connectors that you get with a Duet, or Duet, I guess, if you are DC42. Just because I don't seem to remember where I put my box of microfits. So, oh, okay. Oh, there. Haha. Let's see, and you guys actually may be getting KKs anyways, because I'm running low on ends. But I will see what I can do for the good of the cause. And so ends, tools are in there. Let me find some likely wire. Yeah, this looks like a good test subject. Where the hell did I put those Molex KKs? I'm also not going to put the Microfit 3 end on these just because Microfit 3s are one and done unless you buy like the $40 tool they have, which I'm not going to do. So, yeah, you're going to see how I put the crimp end on, but not going to actually put the connector on there. Where in the devil did I put those? Oh, well. So I can't find my Micro KKs anymore. One more place I'll look. I know, most boring live stream ever. It's not like you're paying for it or anything. So, besides, you guys are needing to pepper me with questions anyway, so I can have a couple of things to address when I get sitting back down. Alrighty then. Oh, damn. Yeah, look, Alec, do you want me to be setting up Super Chat, or do you want me to be talking you through how I do what I do? Your choice. But I've got some downtime over the next few days, and I'll try and set up a Super Chat. I'm also going to be out of town pretty much all next week, just FYI. So I won't stream then, but I'll take requests on what to do for a show, stream, Q&A videos, anything you guys want me to do to help out. I'm more than happy to. Let's see, what are you guys seeing? All right. So you have got these tiny little Molex ends there. We have got our test subject wire. So this is just some Cat 6 Ethernet, so I want to say it's 24 AWG, maybe 26, don't remember, don't really care. All right, so clean those ends out. So Someone was asking what these things were earlier. These are automatic wire strippers. Not very great ones, but they get the job done in a pinch. So you just put the wire in, squeeze, and pull. And you get a decently stripped off end. And then we will do it again. All right. So, let's see. All right. Let's see if I can get this a little closer. A little bit better, maybe. So what you want to do with these, maybe. Let's see. Hope none of you guys are motion sick, by the way. Two A on the motor, same as A. What are you meaning by that, please, sir? Do me a favor and clarify just a little bit. All right, but let's see if this will look a little better. All right, unfortunately, I need two hands, so let's see if this is any better. Tom, I ain't. Don't judge me, y'all. Oh, hey, marginally better. But you can see I've got the instrument clipped off here and cleaned up. So what we want to do is on this micro fit, let's see. Come on, you can do it. There we go. So you'll see you've got, I'm going to try and do this. You've got the back tooth, the primary binder, and then the rest of this tooth body here. And then if you're paying close attention, you'll see if you tilt it, kind of look down the barrel, you'll see these two little wings that stick out to either side. Those are actually where you're going to lock it in, and you don't want to crimp those. Let me check Slack really quick. All right, nothing interesting in Slack. Apparently you guys are all heckling me here tonight. Awesome. All right, let's see. All right, there you go. You can kind of see right there, right to the very left of my finger. You'll see this little tooth-looking thing. That's the one of the locking teeth that actually locks this in, and then you can see the bigger one right here that also locks it in. But there's a couple of locking teeth on here that you need to be cognizant of. Basically, you want to hit this. Focus, please. Asking nicely. There we go. So you want to hit that back tooth and this wider tooth, but nothing else. Let me check this. So what you want to do is this back tooth, well, I've got this up here. This back tooth is actually index on the wiring jacket, and then the front one's actually what binds down on the wire itself. So you need to actually make sure your crimp is appropriately sized and your stripped ends are appropriately sized, because you don't want to have wire sticking out over into other places. So like this right here, for mine, is just a little too long. And so I'm going to clean that up. And that's where my snips come in handy. And I still have to guess it and check it as far as measuring off exactly how much I need to strip off. So, the ever so mythical Engineer PA09s. Focus. Yes, worth every penny. And I will show you why here in a second. So with these the way they are, I can stage a crimp and back it off and just basically get everything how I want it in line without having to manually depower them with a ratcheting crimper. Another issue with a ratcheting crimper, for me at least, is the ratcheting crimps uh, are basically double wide. They're supposed to be able to do everything in one shot, but doing it in one shot has never been happy for me. So, yeah, I don't like them. After the fifth or sixth failed crimp I found on a build, I said, screw it. Let's see. And I am used to working up close and in my own face, so I'm going to do that so you guys don't actually see what I'm doing. I'll show you, though, the final step when I get each one of them done. The joys of getting old, I almost have to wear reading glasses, and that you just can't do that trying to do it also on a stream with folks. So, all right, part number one done. So you'll see this back crimp is over the wiring jacket, and then you've got wire in that front part there. You can also see the, if it'll focus again, the little teeth, maybe. There we go. There you go. Yeah, you'll see the little teeth. Uh, don't crimp those. So, coming back for the next one. All right, next crimp done. And this is what a happy little crimp looks like. All right. So, uh, Gustav is asking about how the motors are wired. Yes, A slash and A are the same as 1A, 2A, 1B, 2B. Uh, I don't really try and rearrange my motor wiring uh, and just go with it how it is, connect straight to the duet. Because the nice thing about the duet is you can adjust motor movement in software. So you can pretty much get everything how you want it just by plugging it in and altering it in software. All right, so let me put these crimp ends back. And we'll move on to the next topic. I also need to get a drink because I'm on vacation right now. Toss those in there like that. Oh, so the people who ordered MZBot Hall Effect end stops or expander boards, those were dropped off at the post office on Saturday, but I didn't make it to the post office in time, so they probably haven't moved until just about now. But speaking of which, one moment here, drum roll please. So What good is a YouTube stream or channel without a giveaway? Yep, that's right. One of the OG awesome MZBot stickers. You know you want one. You know you probably don't have one. Well, I'm gonna hook you up. If you're in the US, send me a ping on Slack. I have got 1, 2, 3 stamped envelopes ready to go with MZBot stickers in them. First 3 people who send me a PM on Slack, it's your lucky day. Congratulations, you win. Also, I'll be right back. I gotta let my dog out because he's getting cranky with me. And my Slack has gone bang, so at least one person has gotten lucky with a sticker. Let's see who the big winner is. All right. So, I have got Etherwalker, Gustav. Also, these are limited to only people in the US. If you're not in the US, I apologize. I'm just not paying shipping to cross borders. All right. Oh, let's see. All right. Did I use tiny rubber bushings between the Z drive motor? Uh, let's see. I'm trying to remember how I built this. Yes, I did. I'm trying to think. Mine are assembled, so I'm not going to pull those apart. But I did. They go together very similar to how this Mobius is here. Basically, where the motor bolts on, there you can wedge in these little grommet thingers. Handy pointing tool. Grommet thingers. The iFly rubber bushings, and away you go. This is the Mobius that we used the other evening from my introduction video on how to assemble a Mobius. Uh, all right, so then, while that's doing that, let's see. Yes, they do get wedged in. They're a double thing, so basically the 2 lips go over and around it, and you're good. Let's see. All right. So, I will do those here shortly. All right, yeah, I can take one out on the Mobius here. Thank you, Maglin. So, let's see, could you guys see that? You could. All right, so, little hole. And then, so you've got your little donutty grommet thinger. Scientific term, that. And then you just basically put it on there and roll it in. And it's in. Let's see, come on, focus, please. But it's not going to. So there is that. Let's see. Okie dokie. See if I can do this without breaking things. I'm doing this off of my laptop, which is not always the greatest platform for such things, but any port in a storm, I suppose. All right. Let's see. What else? What else? What else? All right, so crimping tools. Let me move this camera back a little bit so we can see some. All right. All right, so I know I said I hate ratcheting crimps, but that is not the case with doing large AWG crimps, such as these bad boys. These ratcheting things are what I use for 14 and 16 gauge wiring. So it's just you need some mechanical assistance, in my opinion, at the point that you're using pretty heavy gauge stuff. Let's see if I can find a demo wire really quick. I had one just a little bit ago. And I use the heavier gauge stuff for my power connectors and also for my solid state relay and everything like that. It just makes life a little less potentially painful. No one has time for a house fire, that sort of thing. Let's see, I had some wire. Emphasis on apparently had. Ah, here we go. Score. All right, so this is some 14 AWG. And we're just going to use a simple little test section of it. So, all right. So, Alec, so you're wanting to know what you should print first to put together the frame. So let me rearrange the camera here a second. I'll kind of start pointing stuff out on the frame itself. But let me just first show you what I'm talking about with these heavy-duty crimpers, because you may not have used them before. So what I've done is I've just taken some 14 AWG wire and stripped it down. I need to get a macro camera, I guess. I'm going to keep doing these, but for now it'll work. So I've stripped it down, and I am just going to put a simple spade end on it. Pretty simple and straightforward. You've got your spade end here, and you've got your wire stripped down. And just kind of twist it. Once again, this is one of those ones that you want it to basically be sitting close to the end of the jacket, but not showing your wire, and also with your wire not sticking out past this. So I have overshot. No big deal. This is why I have clippers. And Maglin, yes, this is your cue. You can go on a rant about Clipper and how awesome it is. So slide this on. And then, one nice thing about these things, they are color coded, so you know exactly what size to use. So blue goes in the, you guessed it, blue hole. The blue marked end. There, see? And then you just crimp. All right, so Alec. Now let me show you this crimp really quick. So this is the final product. This bad boy is crimped and is going nowhere. Awesome. All right, so the two assembly stuff. So, in the beginning, there was the printer. because Russian cat food wanted an Ultimaker 3, but didn't want to pay the good money for one. And so he said, screw it, I will build my own printer with hookers and blackjack. Well, maybe no hookers and probably no blackjack. He said he would design his own printer, and he did. And that is how we got our start with the Voron. And the Voron 2 came about as as an offshoot of the V24 project. You can look that up on Reddit. So, to assemble the printer itself, you can get the frame itself built without any printed parts. So, depending on how you have it ordered, you'll either have blind joints here, or you'll have corner cubes. If you're using corner cubes, please buy the Misumi cubes. They're a little bit more money, but the built-in anti-rotation feature is worth every penny. The Misumi cubes also mean you won't have to use these angle brackets here at the corners to keep the horizontals from rotating under load, which will happen. Let's see. One comment on Slack earlier was that it is difficult to get these all lined up without hitting your idlers. And that's true, which is why you see here at the back, you see an angle cube, but not at the front. That's because I have done this, and I'm going to use this as kind of my flying camera here. So I know it's a little overexposed, but so you can see I've done one of the ones at the top. So my tops, I've got the angle cubes there locking the horizontal in, and then at the rear, I've got it at the vertical to horizontal interface there. So let me switch scenes again so you guys don't get motion sick. All right, so let's see. Once you have your frame built, I go about things a little bit differently. And if you were on Slack over the weekend, you probably saw me kind of going through the build itself. So I'm just going to kind of give you a low angle look at things here as it stands. And we'll just kind of pan up a little bit. And back down. All right, so, and then you can get a shot of my really bad wiring under there. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not an engineer. So, there's that. That's my placeholder. When I assembled mine, how I went about it was a little bit different than I think a lot of people are, because a lot of people build the gantry and then put the gantry in and try to assemble everything in it. And thing is, though, that's gets to be tricky to me, routing the belts and everything else. So what I do, I build the frame. Then once I have the frame built, I'm going to go and install the vertical rails. So these bad boys here. So I guess the really very first thing you'll want to print are the rail stops. These things here. You'll need 4 of them. There's 2 separate designs. One that goes at the bottom, then one that goes at the top. If you look really, really closely at them, and I don't know if I'll be able to catch it in this shot. Maybe. Maybe. Doesn't look like I'll be able to. But if you look really closely at them, you will see a little triangle actually in the design itself. And that triangle is supposed to be pointing in towards the printer, because what you're doing, these rails aren't perfectly centered on the extrusion for these z-axes. They're actually inset just a touch so that you can have your enclosure panels bolt on and the carriage not impacted. So, Alec, the first thing I would print if I'm looking to assemble, and I am building as I am printing, and I don't have my stuff already all printed out, I would print those. Once I've got those done, I would print off then the Z bearing blocks. So the part you're looking at right there. Those bearing blocks are what will interface with everything else. So you're going to need 4 of those. and they'll bolt onto your MGN9 carriages. Another reason to print those out, particularly because you didn't have stops on yours, these will keep the carriage from sliding off and causing, bearings to go everywhere and you to have a bad day. Print those first. They're also really, really simple and fast, so have at it there. Once I got those built and I get all of that done, I would start working then. I would go with Z, honestly. I would get the Z parts, start those printing. Those are going to take a while. Those are not inconsequential and will take a lot of time. But I would get those uh, because really everything kind of goes together at the same time. What I do when I build from the outside working my way in. So what I mean by that is I'm going to set this here and we're going to switch cameras again. So when I say I work my way in, I am going to I'm going to actually build this entire side. So Z up all the way from the bottom up. So I had to assemble my Z assembly, and there's a YouTube video I did on those. I get those built. And then once I have those built and the belt threaded, but not tight or anything, I would then get the bearing blocks on everything. Then I would get the gantry, this beam right here. Nothing else, just this beam. And I would get the AB assemblies and the XY idlers. I've got a video on how you assemble the AB assemblies on YouTube. I'd get those assembled. Not tighten them all the way down, but get them like that. And then the XY assembly, I'd get that staged. Go ahead and get the belts through these. And actually, I'll use this to a jump and kind of show one potential gotcha on these. So, at the back here, the belt runs from the Z motor up through this AB assembly, through that hole there, around the Z idler, say hello to the LED bar, hello LED bar, and then down into the face of the ABS idler. And if you ever look at this, and when it's not assembled, if you look at it, it looks like a very disapproving face. You will now see that all. You're welcome. I've ruined it, I know. Have a nice day. So you insert that in there. I've gone ahead and clipped off the excess belting from here, but you'll have excess belt come out from this, and that's how you tension it on top of the Z tensioner, idler tensioner. So go ahead and get those installed. So get your left side installed and then your right side installed. Don't install the front crossbar yet. Don't install the gantry itself yet. That can go on there here shortly. Get that built up. So then once you've got those installed, and these assemblies are not tightened down, by the way, go ahead. You can slide this Y bar in, or this, Y bar, the Y bar in, and once you get it slid in, then you can tighten it all down. One thing to note on these Y block, or the bearing blocks here at the rear and the front, these are not supposed to be hulked in. It's actually supposed to be able to free float and basically tilt and jog around to give you a little more room for adjustment when it's going to bring the gantry into level. So just something to keep in mind. Shot there. One thing I didn't do it here because I figured out after I did this one. But it's actually when you're putting the bearings in on these XYs, to me, it actually is easier to come up from the bottom because you're not having to fight gravity on those top ones to get them aligned. If you're coming up from the bottom, you put the bottom one down, run your belt, slide the top one in on that bottom bearing stack, screw up through it so you get just a little notch up at the next level, put that bottom bearing for the top level on there, click it in, and then screw up more and lock in your top one. It's a lot easier that way. I don't know why I didn't do that beforehand, but that's just how I've done it there. Good shot of the cable chain. I don't have the doors on mine, just because I don't have them yet because I'm not done redoing everything. Also notice there's no Bourbon tube or anything yet. I kind of wanted to do this for mechanicals, and then we'll do software and printing and troubleshooting and everything some other day. Back coroplast, I've got mine notched so I can hit my extruder. I've got a BMG on this one right now. I've got a BMG, I've liked it, and away we go there. Let's see. Another shot of the LED bar. So on mine, I went with tinted polycarbonate just because I thought it looked cool. Just a little bit of tint on there just makes it look cool. I don't have those other side panels installed yet. So that's kind of a walkthrough and a very, very quick and dirty overview of how I would build things. Also, do not tension your Z until you have your bed crossbars installed. I say this because remember how I was saying the top ones can rotate? The bottom ones can too if you don't have those crossbars installed. The crossbars just stop it from doing that, so you're good there. So Trunk Monkey, I will probably play with one of the BMG Mobiuses, or BMG Obius, I guess is the term I named it. You're welcome. But I mean, the BMG works well, the Mobius works really well. I'll probably pick up a set next time I've got some money in my PayPal account and just play with it. But we'll see. Let's see. All right, so there's those. Let's see. Let's see. I am just checking out Slack and everything. Let's see, printing questions. Let's see, Gustav, I'm looking at your picture right now. Uh, Actually, that crimp doesn't look bad, but I think you got a little too far forward and hit the pins on there that lock it in. So try pulling it back just a little bit and go from there. Let's see. More software and printing questions. Uh, Beyond the scope of what I'm talking about now, considering this printer's not live. But yeah, let's see. I'm going through and just seeing if there's anything that would be useful here. All right, so I'm going to bombard you guys with some affiliate links because why not? I mean, it is one of those things that you can't get a YouTube stream without some sort of affiliate link. So if you guys like what you see, buy something so I can get a cut so I can pay for my internet and whatnot. If you don't like what you see, well, you can, you know, tune out and go from there. So the question was, how did I cut my bed holes? The short answer is I didn't. I paid RCF to do it for me. This was way back in the day. There will probably be a revisit of this, but you could do it with just a power drill and a step drill bit. The the nice thing about the V2 is it really doesn't care where these holes are, as long as they're roughly in line. Uh, Basically, you just need them so that it will have a straight line at some point. Uh, but they don't have to be precisely where these are. The reason it's gapped in space the way it is so you could hang a power supply between them. That works really well for a 350 or 300 build. 250s are really, really tight. So, yeah, I don't know if you could, if it's really worth it. I don't have it set up like that. I've got it done differently. I'll send you, I'll move my camera here in a little bit. All right, so flush or underflush. Now, Trunk Monkey, I am guessing you mean by underflush that they sit down under the level of the bed just a little bit. Mine are actually down a little bit more, and that's because that's just how RCF did it. But if you think about it, really, if you're looking at it, let's just move the camera a little closer here. Let's see, let me bounce back to OBS. So, as you can kind of see, it sits down some, and that's because you get that PEI on top of it. Other thing, you're going to need to notch your PEI for these screw holes. It's set down some in there, so you could, depending on if you got a really tiny ball end wrench, you might be able to get one in there in that little access space. I don't know though. That's pretty sketchy. So, yay for a fixed focus camera. I know, I need another camera. So buy stuff from Amazon. So I can buy another Logitech 920, or buy me a 920. If you want to buy me a 920, I will do more videos. Hell, buy me a 920. I will do a private Q&A session with you if you're seriously interested. Ping me. Uh, Shameless plug, I know. Let's see. Actually, we'll go around. And that actually is the first spool of filament I ever bought. A spool of super cheap Foxmark PLA that I used with my Tico. Yeah, I had one of those. Awesome, isn't it? Yeah, I sold the thing, and I still feel kind of bad for it. But dude really wanted it, and I told him it was hot garbage, but he really wanted it, so he paid me for it, and I bought another 3D printer. Awesome. All right, so let me angle this up a little bit. So this is the Hall effect sensor. You can see it mounted there. The Hall effect sensor uses the Hall effect sensor bearing or strike block. And now the Carriage has a Hall effect version only. And what those do is, let's see if I can get this up under here. Yep, so you can see where a magnet slits in there. And yeah, away it goes. So one thing with the Hall effects, polarity matters. So I would suggest getting your Hall effect sensor installed, but not pushing everything, pushing the magnet center or whatnot until you determine which way the orientation is of that magnet to that the Hall effect is most sensitive to. I'm sure it's written up somewhere how that is. I just don't have it handy. So I guessed and I tested, and I mean, you've got a 50-50 shot of getting it right. You'll notice basically one way the Hall effect sensor will pick up on it really close, and the other way it won't. That's just the way it is. And then you adjust it with these potentiometers here, and basically you get the carriage to where you call 250, 250, because the Voron homes max as opposed to homes minimum. So you're homing to 250, 250. And then you move the carriage to what you would call 250, 250. So this corner of the bed, right here. Ta-da. And that is 0, 0. I'm sorry, 250, 250. And so what you want to do, the Hall effect carriage, or Hall effect board, I should say, has LEDs on it. So you will adjust these pots until that light, that LED lights off while it is at what you would call max. Once you're there, you're set, and away you go. No contact, no clicks, no nothing. It just goes. Uh, I've got it. I like it. Uh, if you're comfortable with your soldering skills, your board design and everything, or you can find them for sale. I know I had a run a few over the weekend that I put up for sale that sold out very quickly. And hopefully we can do some more, but we'll see. But I would suggest trying to use it if you can source one. If not, the KW10 switch is perfectly fine, good to go. I mean, that's what I still use on my V1, and they're simple, they work. Let's see. All right. Uh, yeah, Gustav, you hit that crimp a little too far up the neck. You need to avoid coming so close to the end of it. There's only going to be two sets of tabs on those Molexes. Sorry, I'm checking in Slack, by the way, for those of you who don't know where that question in photo is. It's in general in Slack. So you're going to want to try and back that off. It didn't look like a bad crimp, really. Almost a little over crimp, so too much force potentially, but without having that in my hands and like in my looking at it. I don't know. I am kind of having to guess. Let's see. Howdy, howdy, Gregorian. So, what do you guys want to know? What do you want to see? Do you want me to just call it for the night? I mean, as I said, I got nothing going on really. I'm bored, so figured I would just, as opposed to flailing away furiously on a keyboard, I would just try and explain it via video. I guess, what is a YouTube stream without asking you to vote for something in the comments below? So, what bourbon should I drink tonight? I have got Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Kentucky Owl, which yes, I know is a rye. Don't judge me. Knob Creek, some Abraham Bowman, and even a little Blanton's. So let me know what you think, what you like, and put it in the comments below. I don't know. The XY joiner brace. I am trying to remember that piece. I print so much. Yes, yes. Thank you. The mysterious little square piece. Let's see. Let me flip back over to OBS. All right. So the little joiner brace thing, if it'll focus, I might have to switch to my other camera. I'll switch to the other camera. So, 1 second here. See this one. All right. God, this is on the tripod too. All right. We're doing it like this. You're just gonna get the bad camera. So, the mysterious square piece. Dun dun dun. All right. So, that little brace, you kind of see it in this shot, it slides in right there. And it actually supports their bearings between the stack here, and the screw goes through it. So that notch, it just drops in, should align. It's directional, so if it doesn't seem to want to go, you need to flip it, and away you go. All right. So I will leave you guys to bask in the glory of the Voronati while I go get my much threatened bourbon. And equal where it is. Yes. Yes, indeed. I'll go ahead and pull this though, so we actually start poking at things inside if you want. Let's see, I'll grab this really quick. Ah, okay. Okay, the XY joiner. Sorry, I was thinking of a different piece, and Magdalene corrected me here. Also, let's do one thing, or try one thing. So, yeah, it's supposed to be live. Oh, hey, I can pop chat out. Awesome, let's do that. I thought stream options. Yeah. All right, so the XY joiners. All right, so that is the part in question here. So, XY joiner. There are two of them, one for each side. And so four bolts that go up through it into the carriage. You'll see this little slot right there. A hex nut slides in there. One thing on these hex nuts, when they slide in, these slots are actually directional. So you're supposed to align the flats of the hex nut with the flats of this hole. If you actually look at the STL, you will see that the back of this actually is notched for the notch on this hex nut to slide all the way in. So what that does, once you get that pushed all the way through, is that's going to interface man down, or camera down, cameraman, something. That is going to interface, and you're actually going to put a cross bolt. Yep. Oh, sorry. You're not going to see me tonight. Okay. You're going to put a cross bolt. So it's that piece right there. You can kind of see it. So there's actually a screw. So I want to say it's an M3 by 30. I know it's an M3. Yeah, there we go. That screw right there. That goes up and in at a diagonal into that there. And that acts as a stiffener and a strengthener. You've got an M5 that bolts to the cross beam there. And then your pulleys for your belts that are there. And then the back plate. The back plate, the back plate, the back plate. The source of much consternation, concern, and generally wondering what in the fuck is this thing? Sorry, stream's not PG rated. Not sorry. Yep. I gotta do this song and dance while I rearrange things so I can see my laptop. All right, so this back plate, this piece here, it bolts to the back of the joiner, these XY joints, and you've got three screws, two M3s that bolt it to there, and one M5 that bolted to this extrusion. So you've got two M5 screws holding this thing together, which I suppose this is a really good jumping off point to talk about another thing, the gantry itself. So one of the things about Core XY is that it's supposed to, if you do it right, D-rack itself. That involves getting belt tensioning and everything right, which on the V1 was difficult because it was entirely manual and it was basically guess and test and plug and whatnot. Uh, okay. Got you, Greg. Or Gerg, I should say. All right, let's go to the chat window here. I don't know why chat has such lag, but anyways, the V1 racking was a pain. Got it. I've been in that boat too. So one of the cool things about V2 is you've got these knobs that you can adjust tension with. So what you can do, you can de-rack it with tension yourself. All you do, let's get this down a little bit. Now I'm not going to do it in detail right now, just because I don't need to. I'd have to rearrange things a fair bit to get to it. But basically, you pull your gantry back all the way to the back with the belts detensioned, but installed, obviously. And as you've got it back there, start tensioning those knobs. And you can actually watch and see the gantry pulling away from one side or the other. And as it's being pulled away, that means you need to tighten the side that it's being pulled away from. So, and when you have it tensioned properly, it will actually be locked in. So both sides are touching the back of the AB, or basically the back of the gantry is touching the AB idlers flushly, and so you're going to be square and good, and away you go. So there's that. Let's see. What do you guys want to know? Slack or the chat on this kind of lags, so if you want, just toss questions, comments, concerns in general on Slack. I'm paying attention to there too. Let's see what else. So I don't have a Patreon, so I'm going to spare you that indignity, or myself that indignity. I don't know. Whatever. Uh, let's see. Question in general on Slack if you're not paying attention. Someone was asking, do we have to take into account shrinkage when we print the models in ABS or ASA? So when RCF designed these models, he already took into account the 2 to 4% shrink that you'll see with ABS and ASA. These are intended to be done in ABS. You can get away with doing them PETG if you don't plan on using ABS temperatures. If you plan on using ABS at all, you need to print in ABS. Let's see, X carriage wiring, that was brought up. I'm not going to go into super detail with this because that gets rather in depth, but I'm going to go over some of the things I do with this. Let's see if I can get this to kind of lock in, maybe. Maybe. No. We'll do this then. And we'll switch cameras. And there's that. Using the handle for their intended purpose. Amazing. Oh, hell. I just ran over something. No biggie. What did I run over? Well, I don't know what I ran over. I didn't need that filament anyways. Oh, that's what happened. One of my feet came loose in the back. Technical difficulties. While I fix that, watch my drink. And we're back. What do you know? Fixed. So the feet. So the feet are supposed to shock isolate this. So affixing though means it's a path to potentially transfer vibration. So you kind of defeat the shock isolation. I agree. I wish the isolators stayed in more securely, but that would just make them more of a pain to install. It's kind of one of those 50 cents one way, $50 another sort of things. I wish there was a better way too. I just don't know of it. But then again, I'm not a designer. I'm just a pharmacist with too much free time on his hands. Uh, so, carriage wiring. That's all right. So that is the glorious Noctua fan that you can get away with using. With the fans, make sure they are 40 by 40 by 10 millimeter variants. If you go with a by 20, you will wind up basically cheating yourself of build area. So I realize, once again, fixed focal camera kind of sucks. Glue might work. It's worth experimenting with. Try it. Report back to us on Slack. Take one for the team, guys. Trust me, a lot of this that we've all learned is kind of tribal knowledge, is because someone said, I wonder what would happen if I did this. 40 by 40 server case fans. Sure, you're going to lose 30 millimeters of your print area in your Y. So it's worth a shot, though. Let's see. Carriage wiring. So one thing I do that most people don't do, and it's kind of odd, is for my hot end. I know the Duet board is protected against this to some degree, but what I have done on my hot end is I have actually done it. I'm not going to pull it apart. I have done it so it is reversed as far as the plugs. So as you can see, all of my receptacles coming from the chain are females, except for my hot end. And as I said, I'm not going to pull it apart. My hot end is a male. And I do this just to keep from cross-wiring things on accident. Yes, I should be able to see, hey, wait, this is on 20 AWG silicone wire versus the other one is on flipping, 24 gauge non-silicone wire. But just to be safe, I wired it backwards just so there was no question. And that's just a personal thing. Do what you want to do you, rock on. The big thing on wiring is making sure everything's consistent, because you will burn something out if you get something backwards. So I was talking in chat in Slack earlier. What you want to do is honestly start with one wire, or one wire pair even, and start at one end and work your way all the way down. So say I want to start with the wiring for the Noctua fan. This bad boy right here. Uh, so I'm going to start with it, and I'm going to put the wiring. So I'm going to go with the Noctua, and then I'm going to do the Noctua end on this end, and then I'm going to match that up to whatever wiring pair is on this end of the carriage. Going to crimp those, and I'm actually going to put that together and clip it in together to make sure everything looks right. And then I'm going to go to the Duet and the board at the end of it, the other end of the wiring carriage, and put the crimp ends in on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and install that. And then I'm going to repeat the process for each and every part as I go, because I want to make sure I don't get any wiring polarity oopses or anything like that. I need it to, I need it to make sure that it doesn't let's see, it doesn't short something out or burn something out. Learned that the hard way. So why did I terminate all the supply leads as female? Uh, I did it that way. Uh, you can do it as males if you want. There's no real reason I did it one way or the other. I'm sure there's some formal process that you're supposed to do, and I probably did it backwards. But this is how I did it. It made sense to me at the time, is the short answer. Yes, because reasons. Heat bed back. So the underside of the heat bed, or what part of the heat bed are you wanting to see? And I'll actually flip to a better shot of the V2 as opposed to the crap camera. Dead serious, if someone wants to contribute and buy me a Logitech 920, another one, I will more than happily do far better Q&As with close-ups and everything, and whatnot. So, please. Actually, I'm joking. But seriously, if you want to buy me one, I'll do a personal one-on-one Q&A with you via live stream. Talk you through everything you want to know that I can try to answer. Help, just ping me on Slack, and I'll be happy to try and help you out anyways without buying me a 920. The wiring. So I really don't want to flip the printer over tonight. So yeah, I know, Gerd. I know. I'm shameless. What can I say? I don't want to flip the printer over tonight. But so the wiring's pretty simple. Uh, what you do is you have, let's see, where's my notepad at? So we will do this on paper. You should be running all scared now because I can't draw. Let's see. All right. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, where's that? I need to spool up a print on my V1. Hold, please. All right. There's that. Okay. Good idea, Maglin. Thank you. I will jump into that here in a moment. All right. Let's see. Now I need to go to OBS Studio. All right. So, as I said, as I threatened, drawing. So, and yes, he fancy. That's a fountain pen. Have your heater bed there, right? And you're going to have two thin little wires coming off of it for your thermistor. Those are just going to go plug straight into a port on your board, whichever board you're choosing to use, whether it be Duet, whether it be Ramps, whether it be something powered by Clipper. You're welcome, Maglin. Those plug in. Set them, forget them, call it good. Then you're going to have two thicker wires coming off, and those are for power. If you're using a Kinovo bed, they're going to be white fiberglass insulated wires. So what you're going to do, one of these is going to go to the negative terminal on your power supply. So, and this is the negative on actually the 120 volt or 240 if you're in Europe. So let's see, PSU. So this wire here is going to go there. That's the negative. So then you've got your SSR, which is this block here. So your SSR is there, and that is going to go then to your positive terminal. So basically the SSR is just a switch. It is a solid state relay switch, which isolates one set of current from another. Then you're going to take another wire from your SSR, and this is going to go to your heat bed controller on your board. So your SSR is going to be marked plus and minus, and then it should be load. So your load is the bed itself, and then your heat bed, the SSR controller ports go to the plus and minus on your respective board. And so there's that, just for completeness sake. Those go there, and you're good. That's pretty much it, really, there. Back to the pre-printer and not my jacked up drawings. All right. Yes, neutral. Yes, black for hot, white for neutral, green for ground. That's how I have mine set up. So I just always I misappropriate terms. So yeah, it's pretty painless. Just make sure everything's hooked up right. And if it's their first time wiring something, if it's your first time at Fight Club, everyone fights. If it's your first time wiring it, do it. Fire it up in your driveway or in the garage or on your back porch or in your apartment parking lot or something, and maybe have a firing extinguisher nearby. If it smells burnt and toasty, go ahead and pull the plug and wait for it to cool down for a little bit and check and see what you did wrong. Mistakes will be made. Unfortunately, you will break something. I have killed several things, several expensive things, and just unfortunately, you kind of have to embrace the suck and get on with it. Let's see, check Slack really quick. All right. Every now and again, I look in Slack and just put my head in my hands. Some of you know, some of you don't, but it is the way it is. I apologize. All right. Yes. Do not short your positive and negatives across something. You will pop a FET on your duet. Although the newer duets, if you have a Wi-Fi or duet Ethernet 1.03, there's actually a fuse there that will keep it from that will actually die before your FETs do. Ask me how I know, because I killed it. And found out, hey, there's a fuse I can swap to revive it. And I did, and it was awesome. So props to DC42 for a very clever design. So I had a request to talk about tensioning the Z. So we are going to swipe back to the crappy camera. Hello, crappy camera. So let's take a look. Let's see if I can do this. Ha! Awesome. We're going to use our dental pick pointer. So this is the idler. So what you've got a M3 bolt that runs through here, and on the back side of this is a slot for a hex nut. And this M3 bolt pushes up against this back screw to lever this tight. So when you're assembling it, you want this backed out as far as you can go to begin with. And then, so this is going to be basically hanging down at a 45, between 45 and 90 degree angle. Drop down. And then you're going to load the belt in and push it up just a little bit to get some tension on it so it doesn't go anywhere. And then start tightening this down. Now, before you start doing this, you can only get so much out of this. So you want to go ahead and get this relatively tight. Once you get it relatively tight, using the screws, or get it relatively tight, and then tighten down these screws in your idlers. Once you get those tight, and so it basically locks that down, then you can start actually tensioning here to get it fully tight. I've got a mic on me, so you can't hear that probably, but those are quite tight. Let's see, and there's the dashboard. Bounce back to chat. Let's see. All right. So, always on fans. There is, on the Duet, there's several fan headers, and you can configure those headers however you want. There's two that are designated as always on a Duet Wi-Fi. And so, obviously, if you want a fan on, it's always on, plug it in there. But you can also assign manually these fans to be certain ways, whether they be thermostatic, manually controlled, or anything else like that. So, Pablo, thermal fuse on the bed. It is recommended you do one of those. So that goes in the positive line, so the line coming from the positive side of the power supply, uh, or the hot side. And that goes into the thermal fuse and then goes to the bed. The thermal fuse itself is applied to the bed as well. And then if something goes wrong and your bed exceeds whatever temperature threshold that your thermal fuse is set for, it pops and cuts power. And then your board should see that the bed's not heating, and then it should freak out as well. And everything stops, and you can, pull things down, replace thermal fuse, and drive on. They also make resettable thermal switches. Uh, I I don't know how good they are versus they're not. Also, if you really want, you can ping Kenovo or Kenovo or however you say it, and they'll actually make you a bed with the thermal fuse already built into it. It's a few bucks more. I want to say it's like $10 more. Alec, if he's still around, he could probably weigh in a little more as far as if it's still there or not, if or how much it was, I should say. Let's see. All right. Trying to monitor like 3 different channels, all in a single screen laptop. So bear with me. All right. What else? We will go back to the pretty camera. Pretty camera. All right, I'm going to check on something really quick. Talk amongst yourselves. Be polite. Don't make me ban on anyone. Oh, that's ugly. But this is what we have left. It'll work. All right. So, someone asked me about homing locations versus other locations. So, Printer's not online right now. I've got it powered down because I needed all the power outlets for all my high-tech streaming gear, aka my MacBook and a USB hub. So the Voron 1 and 2 are slightly different than what most people are used to. Most people are used to 3D printers that home to minimum and then go from minimum. So they home to 0, 0. The V2 and the V1 home to the maxima for X and Y, which means this right here, what you're looking at, is a 250 by 250 build. So home on X and Y is here, but 0, 0 is here. No big deal. We just have to do that in the code, and you can set the duet or the or Marlin if you were using ramps, and I'm sure you can do that in Clipper. Maglin will tell you all about that, I'm sure. To basically, so it knows that this is still 0, 0, even though your end stops are triggering right here. Also, this is one of the switches. This is one of the knockoff ones. And it works. It works well. Well, I don't know about the knockoff, but I know the Omron, the genuine Omron one, which is what I've got installed in this V2 right here, works really well. I'm happy with it. And for nothing else, it has a really, really pleasant click. I don't know if you can hear that, but yes, it's almost like a worry stone or something. I'll wander around my house just clicking this because I can. It amuses me. What can I say? The diode, the BAT85 Schottky diode. That's for the inductive probe. Uh, so inductive probes run on supply current, 12 volts. They run anywhere from 6 volts all the way up to 36 volts. Well, problem is your board probably isn't gonna be happy for hitting it with 24 volts of fun from the sense port. That's a very fast way to kill a ramps theoretically. So and the duet actually for extended use. It's protected against accidental, but don't do this long term. Uh, so we splice in the BAT 85. You hook the cathode in, or you hook the output line, the sense line output to the cathode of a diode. I'm sorry, no, the anode of a diode, and then hook that end of the diode up to the actual sense pin on your board itself. Uh, I'll double check my terminology on that just to make sure I'm saying it right here in a moment. But basically, that is to isolate the board from all that current, so you don't go all zappy zappy, because zappy zappy bad. No zappy zappy. But yeah, that's in the wiring rat's nest under my printer that I'm not going to dig into tonight because I don't feel like trying to flip this thing over. So there's that. Set the little camera there. All right. Yes, Carlos, thank you. Uh, cathode to inductive sensor out. So cathode out, and then anode end is going towards your board. Let's see. All right, one second here. Let's see. Oh God, Maglin, you're gonna make me show off the wiring, aren't you? Oh, inductive sensor I'm using. I am using a PL008. I'm sorry, PL08N. Uh, it's PL-08N. Uh, put that in on AliExpress. You'll find it. It's this red box-looking thing. It's an 8 millimeter sense distance probe. You're not going to get 8 millimeters because we're not on iron. It's closer to 4-ish, but basically any compact box one. So you could get away theoretically with a PLO4N, uh, just with a smaller sense distance. Uh, the sense distance on this isn't as big of a deal. It just needs to be consistent because the mechanical switch is what actually triggers uh, for adjusting nozzle offset. So that's always going to be consistent because it's thermally isolated from everything, and also it's a mechanical closing gap. So you're never going to get enough heat into it to really alter it that much. You get it set in your code, and away you go, and then you're set. And thank you, sir. Magla just linked it. And by the way, he's a mod, so he and I are both kind of the caretakers, I guess, of this community. Uh, because RCF is just super busy with life and just, he's got a life, he's got a family, and this is a hobby for him. So Magla and I, Jeremiah, are kind of just keeping things between the ditches and helping guide people as they need to. RCF is still around. He is not dead. Rumors of his demise are greatly exaggerated, but he's got a life, he's got a family, and he's got a job. He has bills to pay just like all of us. So things are coming. I will say that things have gone from soon, TM, to soon, and you'll see something sooner than later. There's a couple of things up his sleeve that everyone will see, uh, and I think the community is going to be really, really happy with them. Uh, I think that what what he has is really going to, help step things up. Uh, the If you haven't been paying attention, the step files for the Mobius, not step files, I'm sorry, the Fusion 360 assembly for the Mobius extruder have been released. In fact, Hackdoggo has already adapted that. Actually, he adapted the STLs, so kudos to him. If you're on Slack, he's Hackdoggo on there. Has actually adapted those to use the BMG gears that you're starting to see on AliExpress. So that's the BMG Obius that you may have heard me mentioning earlier. That's a really clever looking design. I really kind of want to play with one at some point. It's just finding enough free time and a free printer to experiment with versus having, my printers online. I print a lot for the Print It Forward community, and I've got, I think, 2 people in line right now. If you're in the United States, there's several of us that will print for basically the cost of filament and shipping. And so if you've got a sketchy printer or a printer that can't handle doing ABS or whatever, there's no reason not to go ahead and go ABS because all you have to do is send someone like myself or Maglin or Volcom, send them a roll of ABS Plus or ABS that you want your stuff to be done in, and give us a week or two, and pay us whatever it costs to ship it to you, and hey, awesome, you're set. Uh, So there's no excuse to not do it in ABS, in my opinion, other than just the pure doggedness of wanting to build it yourself and build it, with the stuff you printed. If that's the case, awesome. Good on you, mate. Uh, but just, you know, if you're worried about those sort of things, get it done right. We're more than happy to help. That's why I'm doing this live stream. It's certainly not for my help. Uh, that's why a bunch of us are on Slack, because we want to help people dive in. I mean, literally, about this time last year, I was just diving into building my first 3D printer. And I'm here now at this point because of what I've learned on Slack and everything else. There are dumb questions. There are dumb people. But our goal is to help people learn. And so if you're coming into this with an open mind and are willing to learn and are willing to give back too, we'll do whatever we can to help get you there. I've sent parts all over the country. I've sent parts internationally to people. And I've spent many an hour trying to help people get their stuff troubleshot. And in fact, we are on, drum roll please, we are almost at 2 hours here on this live stream. So, yeah, as I said, just, give back if you can. Whether it be photos and showing how you did something, whether it be answering some new guy's question, whatever, just do something to give back. I mean, go sling a hammer for Habitat for Humanity if you aren't good at building 3D printers. Just give back, please. And thus endeth that sermon. Sorry, got a little ranty for a moment. But yeah, questions, guys. Questions, comments, concerns. Send them to me on Slack. Send them to me here. And I'll do my best to try and answer them. I've got probably a little while left in me before I'm going to rack out for the night. And as I said, I'm going on vacation the remainder of the week, and then I start a new job next week. So I'll be pretty scarce for the next little while, but I'll do my best to be popping in and out on Slack answering questions. But so yeah, what we got? All right, so asking someone to give me a tour of the cable runs. I will try to. I'm not going to flip the machine over, as I said. I just don't feel like getting my workout in for today with machine calisthenics and whatnot. Uh, oh, yes, please do not upload videos to YouTube. Maglin and I spent several hours on and off today deleting files so Slack wouldn't freak out about us and so we could continue at least sharing photos. Uh, please upload videos to YouTube. Please. Please. All right. So I'm going to flip back to the shitty cam. Boom. There we go. All right. So we are going to start from the top here. And so we have the wiring using the fancy fountain pen as a pointing device this time. So the wiring comes out here and it runs through this, and the cable chain runs down as an S like that. And so, actually, let me move back for a second, because there's one thing you probably want to know. You're going to need wires for 1, 2 cooling fans. Oh, and by the way, I cheat. I only have 1 cooling fan here because I only do work in ABS, so I don't use part cooling. So this doesn't actually have a fan in it. It's just a wire hider. You do you. So you're going to need 1 cooling fan. So that's 1 pair of wires. 2 cooling fans, 2 pairs of wires. 3 pairs of wires for the hot end fan. You're going to need a pair of wires for your heater, a pair of wires for your inductive probe, and then 3 wires, 1, 2, 3, for your inductive probe itself. I'm sorry, I said probe over here, your thermistor. Or PT100 if you're fancy like that. I'm not. I run thermistors. So you're going to need all that cabling there coming out here. That's going to run through the cable chain to here. The cable chain anchors here. The cable chain anchors here. And then you've got the XY bridge. I can't remember the official file name, but you've got this bridge here. The cables run up and then in and around, and then continuing on along there. But one thing to note, as you come around this, this is where your in-stop switches are housed. I'm going to move the camera here. So you're going to need another 4 wires to be terminated here. And this is where either your KW10 switches or your Hall effect sensor is at. So that right there is the crappy cam view of the Hall effect board. And you'll see I've got 4 wires running down to it. And so take whatever I counted up on the carriage over here and add 4 to that. So then, coming back to the crappy cam, that wire runs down this belt chain here. And once again, it's in one of these kind of coils like that. And then it runs around this little kink here and up into the Z chain. But this is where your AB motors are. So you're going to need 4 motors for your A and 4 wires for your A and 4 wires for your B. So whatever you've had to get to here plus whatever you had to get to here plus 8 is what runs down this. And then that comes down, and I don't have back coroplast on, so you can kind of see the snake that, as it goes down in there. And that's actually where everything runs and then hooks into your board. So hopefully that kind of answers your question and kind of shows you how I have it wired. I really highly recommend having something to basically keep yourself organized. I was lucky enough to get a cable bundle that had every single pair a different color, so that made my life a little easier. You can do this with Cat6 cabling. Just keep yourself organized. Whether you label it, whether you go ahead and keep things crimped and bound as you do it, so you basically run each pair, one pair at a time. Just do something to keep yourself organized. You don't want to be the guy who accidentally feeds your hot end with your thermistor or something. I don't know. It could go horribly wrong. I can see something going horribly wrong. I could do something horribly wrong. I've done it before. So, yeah. So there's that. So that's kind of just a quick rundown of how the wiring is done. And so the belts. And this is from Slack once again. Long-time listener, first-time caller. So on the belts, I did a video on how I assemble the AB idlers. Once you get those assembled and the belts in, here's what I do. Let's see what kind of view I have on the crappy cam. Actually, we may be able to switch back to the good camera. We are. Let me get this out the way, though. So, all right, so on the belting, what I do is I start with the bottom belt. So for my particular build, I'm pretty sure this is going to transfer universally. The bottom belt is here on the left side, and I run it first. And so I run it back along this to the tooth pulley here and actually put it in here. I don't lock it down yet, but I do actually go ahead and run it behind here. Once I get it run, that just kind of serves as an anchor point. And I work with plenty of slack in my belt. I mean, we're talking, I'll take a full 5-meter roll per axis, just so I have plenty of slack to work with while I'm getting everything built. I cut it obviously when I'm done, but I want to make sure I've got plenty of slack. And this is actually where one tool comes really handy. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? Where did I put it? Well, crap. I have misplaced them. But I have got a set of curved hemostats that are really, really good for reaching in there and grabbing the belt and pulling it through. So those come in really handy there. Pull that through, kind of anchor it down, but once again, I've not installed a belt clip yet. And then I run the belt, so it goes here, and I've already got it in this motor assembly here. Then it runs through the AV assembly, around, and we're going to switch back to the crappy cam. No, that's just not going to work right now. No good answer for this. So it runs around. There we go. And it runs around, and then here, and then around, in, and across the line. Then I do the reverse. So I'll run from here into there, around, 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 and then across the line. And then I go ahead and just pull all the slack out so it's generally tight. Once I get everything kind of generally tight, then and only then will I install the belt locks. And those are behind the carriage. It's behind in here. I'm not going to pull that down, but it's behind there. And pull those all. Go ahead and lock those in. Then I'll install the carriage itself, the carriage assembly, and then I'll start working on tensioning it with the knobs. And as I mentioned earlier, you can use the knobs and the tension in that to actually change the tension or change the racking and whatnot of that. So yeah, there is all of that. Let's see. So once again, what questions you guys got? Uh, oh, and because someone was making comments on certain things, I may not be sober. Who knows? Uh, yeah. Uh, and also, this is totally a joke. I am on number one, and that's all I'm doing for the night. So, before like I get concerned phone calls about like, oh my God, you're drunk and streaming. No, but it is funny at least, and that's why I do most of this stuff because lulz. Uh, Questions, comments, concerns. Bueller, Bueller. Anyone? The only dumb question is the one not asked. Yes, until you get the one about that one time at band camp. And no one wants to know that question. No one wants to hear that question. So, yes, that is a dumb question. Let's see. What brand of butter? So if you're in Europe, I recommend Kerrygold because Irish butter is phenomenal stuff. However, the import duties kind of make it expensive here in the United States. If you're here in the U.S., in the South, Land O'Lakes is really hard to beat. Now, there's a couple of California brands out there that I've heard good things about, but I haven't had a chance to use. So if you're west of the Mississippi, you might be able to get your hands on those. If you do, come back in the comments and let us know because I'm really curious about those. But once again, here in the South, here on the East Coast, Land O'Lakes is the way to go. Unsalted though, because remember, salt causes corrosion and contributes to it. So you want to make sure your rails don't corrode. So unsalted butter, unsweetened butter too, by the way. Uh, we want as pure straight cream as possible. Yes, if you can make your own butter, that's even better. Uh, your own butter is just it's such a better option uh, because you know the quality that's going into it. So no, this printer is not online. I don't have it fully powered. Uh, just the room I'm in that I can get this lighting with right now only has two power outlets available, and that is my laptop and my USB hub for all my cameras. So I will try and do maybe Sunday night. I'll try and do a stream with everything live and running and whatnot, and kind of go through things. Uh, but I don't have it fully live right now. This is a mechanical and assembly point of view discussion right now. I wish I had more time to get this live, but this was finished literally about 45 minutes before we dove into this. All right, how the linear rails are attached. So T-slot extrusions actually are what we're using. So the Misumi T-slot profile extrusions. Don't use V-slot, please. You're setting yourself up for a bad time. Uh, how the rails attach though? Pretty simple. We're going to switch to the crap cam. Yep. So you can't really see it because of the contrast. This camera's like 10 years old, I think. Uh, but if you're looking, all you've got is just an M3 by 8 bolt through here. And then I know I'm like one of the biggest haters on hammerheads, but this is the one place I think they're okay. Uh, I actually have hammerheads on here because I can stage them before I install the rail. So I can stage the entire assembly, drop it on there, and then bolt it down. And then remember, once again, on these verticals, you've got these offset pieces here to make sure you actually offset this so you can install your panels and make sure you install your enclosure panels. Uh, because otherwise, your carriages would be grinding up against your plexi, or you should be using polycarbonate, just better heat resistance. You're not going to melt plexiglass, but it will start doing wonky things under the heat. So polycarbonate if you can do it, please. All right, let's see. There's that. Yes, Misumi for your extrusions if you can do it. If you're in Europe, there are other places to source your extrusions from. I just don't know them. So Eurozone folks, there are several good people in Slack to ping for their sources. Talk to them, see what they do. I would highly recommend following their advice. I'm not in Europe. I haven't sourced in Europe, so I can't comment any further there. Uh, but if you're in the US, Canada, please use Misumi. Please. You're just gonna because you might run into stuff that's like 5 millimeter slot versus 6 millimeter slot versus V slot and V slot. So this will actually bring up one of the things that gets asked in Reddit every now and again. And most of us here, I'm sure, know this, but in case someone's kind of long time listener, first time caller that doesn't know why we should be using Misumi versus anything else. So V slot has a different slot profile itself. So what you're actually looking at on the face of the rail is different. So your actually the MGN9 rail may not interface properly with it. Could it be altered and everything? Maybe. But if you're buying it, you're paying about the same as what you pay Misumi. And if you're paying the same to Misumi, or you're paying the same as Misumi, but you're adding more hassle, why are you doing that thing again? I don't know. That's on you. That's your decision. I just can't help you if you use V slot. That's just the way it is, and that's not me being a hard ass. That's me saying I have no clue what's going to need to be done other than it's going to be a pain. So please use Basumi. Thus endeth that rant. Ah, feed tube inlet bracket. Uh, So I actually need to cut my coroplast for that. Let me see if it's in my box O parts though, and I will kind of run over just that in general. I do have it. Sweet. So we're going to switch cameras. Just angle that down. All right. So this is a quickly done, hacked together dual inlet, one of these inlet feed tube assemblies, because I was experimenting with dual extrusion at one point in time. Not ready for prime time, don't ask. But, so, what are we looking at with this thing? Let's see. Camera here goes like that. So you've got this. And basically what you're looking at with the normal assembly is just one inlet tube. So it looks like that. And like that. So let me find my placeholder section of PTFE. Thusly. So this tube here, these holes in this are at an angle. So the PTFE just goes in at an angle, feeds in, and then this bolts to your extrusion on the back, so it's sitting like this. This end goes out, plugs into your extruder, and then the long end just goes and plugs into your hot end, and away you go. As I said, I finished this, the mechanics and everything of this shortly before this stream began, so I haven't actually cut the coroplast yet on the back to reinstall this single slot assembly, or the feed slot assembly. I'm letting my dog out. Talk amongst yourselves. I will be back. So one thing while my dog does his thing is bearings. So the bearings you use are tremendously important, particularly for the F623ZZs. Those bearings are under a fair bit of load, and they're small bearings, so they're not the strongest things ever. It is imperative you find a good bearing supplier and source from there. I can personally say that Folgertech bearings, if you're buying in the United States, are absolute crap. How do I know this? Because I've gone through about 40 of them. And it should have been a clue when I got them, and like 3 bearings per tube, because they come in a pack of 10, little plastic tube thingies, were failed. Should have been a clue, but I was like, oh, hey, I'll just cherry pick out the good ones and we'll be good to go. Yeah, no. More failed as my print had load put on it and, print time run. So, yeah, it's imperative you find good suppliers. I'm not saying go and spend $4 per bearing from Misumi or $7 per bearing from VXB. That's foolish. But also, please don't buy Folgertech. I'm a little salty because I did a full rebuild and rebuilt because of Folgertech bearings. So, don't do that. And I would point you to who I bought my new bearings from, because they're really, really nice looking. In fact, so that's the tube they came in. And they're really nicely sealed. But, so these were listed when I bought them for $7.25 per tin. Awesome. I bought a ton of them. I go back to the listing the other day. They want $107 per tin. So I can't recommend them for obvious reasons, but I haven't found a great replacement yet. it's going to kind of be hit or miss. Uh, if you can find double sealed ones, I think those are going to be a little higher quality, but I can't prove that one way or the other. Just you may have to, uh, try a couple of different suppliers. And thankfully, bearings are kind of cheap. Uh, I can say with certainty though, don't buy Folgertech. I will say it again: do not buy Folgertech. Any questions? Nope. Awesome. Let's see. All right. Speaking of actually things to get from Misumi, so let us talk about the consternation causing Misumi T-nuts. Is there a zoom on this? No, there's not. Damn. All right. So this is Misumi short post-assembly T-nut. They're not the cheapest things ever. They were about 40 cents per when you buy them in bulk. You need a minimum of, let's see, let me count it out again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you need 12 at minimum. And so why 12? All right. So we're going to lift this back up and point that there. We're going to switch to the other camera. So what you're looking at is it has to fit right here, which is a very small space. So you're going to need, I'm sorry, more than 12. Yeah, no, you're going to need 12 because you need 6, basically for each close vertice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6, 12. So for each one of these close vertices, you're going to need one of those. You can get away with something larger for the other one. But, so let's just do a quick size comparison. So that's your, on the left is a Chinesium ball bearing roll in M5. And on the right is the Misumi short leaf spring post assembly. Much smaller, as you can see, about half the size. So yeah, you either need to use the Misumi ones or you need to use hammerheads on those corner vertices. But you can get away with using, Chinesium roll-ins or hammerheads, God forbid, everywhere else. Let's see. All right. Any ghosting testing? So I have done some testing as far as ghosting and everything. I've got my excels and jerks where I'm pretty well happy with them. Basically, I don't have much issue with it given how rigid this gantry is. Yes, you've got more weight to sling around, but the sheer stability of this and being on rails versus rods gives you some strength there. It prints, let me just put it like this, it prints as fast as I could want it to. As far as like carbon fiber X gantry, I totally get how awesome what E3 is doing is awesome. I get it. It's awesome. The juice to squeeze ratio, though, I don't think is there. If I had a way to reliably form carbon fiber that I could build a full carbon fiber gantry out of, maybe. But, I mean, I just, I don't see a realistic way to home build something like that. Uh, if you can do it and you can build one, have at it, dude. More power to you. Awesome. Show me where you got your stuff because I'd be curious to play with it. But I don't think it's within the realm of home manufacturing as it stands right now. And I hope that answers your question. I'm not trying to crap over saying carbon fiber bad. No, carbon fiber is awesome stuff if you use it in the right design envelope. And that would be one of the places it would be awesome. But getting it built and getting it sourced to get it built is just not there to me right now. So yeah. So actually, while I'm thinking of it, where did I put those? So the Noctua fan is what a lot of people use, and hey, that's what I have installed on my V2. It's not your only option. You can get away with a few other different things. I'm going to angle the camera down some. So you have a few other options, but they're all going to be kind of similar in cost to the Noctua. So the Scythe Kaze sleeve bearing fan. Let's see if I can get this and get it focused. There we go. All of these, by the way, you can find on Amazon. So this fan here puts out a roughly similar CFM to the Noctua. It's, it's just as quiet as the Noctua. I just don't have it installed because I wanted to try the Noctua and actually see if it was worth the hype. I like the Noctua. It works well, but it's not cheap. This is $4-5 cheaper on Amazon, if I remember right. If you're not a fan of the Noctua price, or you want something in black, which is totally a reasonable option, you might want to try this out. Just so you can see the model number. It's worth a shot. So I've got a Sun On. So this is one of their quiet ones. This is a lower CFM quiet fan using their maglev bearings. And let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. And so this is going to put out right about what the Noctua puts out, maybe a tick less, but it is dead quiet. Thing is, it costs as much as the Noctua does. So you can see the model number. And then, because I was worried that cutting it close to the CFM of the stock E3D fan, I went and I got a Sun On high output 40 by 40 by 10. And this is not an absolute screamer. However, it goes from the inaudible of the other fans I showed you to this one is audible, but not 30 millimeter E3D V6 fan audible. This one's 9 and some change. CFM. Still got the nice Sun On maglev bearings. So if you're working with, higher temperatures and you might need more airflow over your heatsink to actually keep it reasonable, maybe an option. But I mean, they all work. There's actually some cheap 40 by 40 by 10 fans that'll also work just fine. Just go and check E3D's wiki and see what their 30 by 30 by whatever fan they use is, what its CFM is, and then get a fan that meets that. If you do that, you're good. If it's less than that, you might start running into issues with heat creep. So meet or exceed E3D settings. I want to say theirs is for CFM. And this is going on memory, so don't quote me as gospel. And yes, Jeremiah brings up a good point. The more heatsink fan you have, the more potential it will be blowing down on your print as well. So it is a balancing act, particularly working at ABS, because yeah, that air has to go somewhere, and it's going to go not just over your heatsink, but also over your print and whatnot. So just be mindful of it. And also, I mean, once again, you can PWM a fan down in your settings and everything else. So if you're worried about that, have at it. But just pay attention. See, be mindful of what you're doing. And if you're really, really worried about thermals and everything, uh, heck, go water cooled. I mean, it'll be a little bit tricky to get plumbed up. You're not gonna run. I saw someone suggest running water cooling lines through the belt chain. To me, that seems like an absolute nightmare. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Uh, but I'm not convinced it's feasible. If you can do it, show us video and I will applaud you. Hell, I will buy you a beer probably. All right. Retraction, pressure advance, Bowden versus direct 8-bit clipper. Okay, that's some serious into the weeds discussion for a printer that's not running right now. So I will give you my 30,000 foot view of the world as I see it. I have not messed with Clipper. Jeremiah is all about Clipper all the time right now, and more power to him. I haven't messed with it. I'm a Duet guy. Uh, Duet works for me. I know my way around it, and I know how to get it running. So I'm sticking with Duet for now. Uh, am I saying Duet is the be all end all? No. Am I saying Duet works for my uses? Yes. And part of the reason I say that is because I'm a huge fan of the 2660 drivers, the Trinamics, that are on the Duet. Uh, Marlin works, Duet works, Clipper is great, as Jeremiah says. Take your pick. I mean, there's now 3 options to get yourself running, and actually, the Clipper option is a really interesting path for folks going forward because it lets you get some pretty advanced stuff using some less expensive hardware. I know there's been some talk about fake duets, clones, and whatnot that are starting to appear on AliExpress. I've also seen some folks who have uh, such boards that are inconsistent, that may or may not be recognizing the DuX all the time. I've seen some failures because of that. Is that because of poor manufacturing quality? Is it because of bad wiring work on their part? I don't know. I don't have my hands on their stuff. I can't comment there. I just can say that I've seen some issues reported there. Take that for what you will. Uh, but Clipper gives you a very interesting thing, a very interesting path because hey, you've already bought. If you're going cheap right now and you're going dual ramps, you've already bought the ramps, you've already bought the 4988s, and you've already got everything else, and you've probably already got a Raspberry Pi sitting around too because you're running it off of Octoprint. So all of a sudden you just drop ramps on there, or I'm sorry, you drop Clipper on there, and you get advanced, motion planning and everything and advanced pressure advanced control that you know gives you a whole lot of speed, a whole lot of speed. I mean, Jeremiah has been telling us about running stuff that he was running at 80 millimeters a second on a Duet, bumped up to buck 50, I think. uh yeah, it's an interesting concept. I want to play with it, I really do, and I just haven't had time, and I've got a bunch of stuff on my plate. As far as retraction and pressure advance, or pressure assist, if your hardware can handle it, makes for really pretty prints. Uh, I would not be running it on an 8-bit system. It will choke and stumble, and that'll make your prints look ugly again. So focus on getting what you've got running. Uh, If you've got the hardware to handle it and you don't mind spending the time to tweak and tune it, awesome, dude. Rock on. Duet can make it look pretty. Clipper is doing a phenomenal job at it as well, from what I understand. And drive on. Uh, Bowden versus Direct. So I've used both. Uh, both have their advantages, both have their disadvantages. Direct is simple, it's effective, it's easy to use, and hey, it lets you get down to a far smaller chunk of filament than you do a Bowden system, because with a Bowden system, you have this, however many millimeter long tube between your extruder and your hot end. Uh, but this isn't to say that Bowden is bad. I run Bowden on my V1. I'm going to run Bowden on my V2. And the main thing is you just need to start, or you need to know the differences between them and know that you have to adapt your print settings and the like to deal with uh, the differences between them. You're going to have more retraction with a Bowden setup than you will a direct drive. And that's just, the nature of the beast. Uh, there's some things you can do to offset that and alleviate it. You can basically Capricorn tubing's one way. Some people say it's snake oil. Some people swear by it. I like it. I can't prove it does one thing or another, one way or the other, but I got it because I placed an order with Illustrator and had a few bucks extra and dropped it in my cart and said, "Hey, let's try it." And it works. I haven't had anything die horribly or catch on fire, so I'll keep playing with it. But the pluses of Bowden are that you take the weight of that NEMA 17 motor and that extruder assembly and you put it elsewheres. You put it, somewhere that's not in motion. So you have a lighter piece in motion that lets you dial up speeds. Uh, you don't have as much issues with ghosting and things like that. Potentially, once again, part of this involves actually having a dialed-in printer and knowing what you're doing. And this isn't saying that you can't know what you're doing if you're a total noob at this or anything. This is just saying that it's one more thing to play with. This is a hobby. This is an experiment. This is this is a learning process. I will learn something probably even after I sign off the stream tonight. I will be poking at something and be like, "Well, hell, I didn't know that." And let me actually, I'm going to get on soapbox for a second. Everyone wants to be right. Everyone wants to have the A answer. Also, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I have learned far more by being wrong than I will have ever learned by being right. You don't learn something by being right. You learn something by trial and error. And the error is the imperative part. Now, I'm not saying you have to be the ones making all the errors. Someone, though, will have to mess up somewhere. So don't be afraid to say, "Hey, I screwed up. Hey, I broke this because I tried this and it didn't work." At the very worst, someone else is going to see what you said and say, "I will not do that thing." And you've helped solve someone else's problems. Or you say, "Hey, I did this thing, I broke it, and here's how I fixed it." And someone will have go and do the thing you did, and then you help them solve their problem. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to dive in. Don't be afraid to, try things out, break things, learn things. It, there's nothing that you will do that will irrevocably warp the space of, the fabric of space and time, short of buying an A8 and setting your house on fire. So don't be afraid to experiment. Play with some weird settings in your stuff. Play with pressure advance. Play with linear advance. Play with whatever the buzzword of the week is. Clipper, Marlin 2.0, Marlin 3.0, Marlin 45, RepRap firmware. Why don't you try flashing RepRap firmware on my Xbox? And I am going to take a set of jumper cables and hook it to my printer and see what happens. Just have a fire extinguisher standing by. I mean, guys, have fun with it. We get all wrapped around, "Hey, I gotta be right. I gotta be the guy with the A answer. I gotta be the one who everyone turns to because I'm answering all their questions." No, 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 guys. Have fun with it. I'm not doing this to give you, like, to stoke my own ego. I'm doing this to hope that some guy sitting here listening at home and's like, "Wait, I was gonna do this totally wrong," and I help him learn something. So yeah, guys, have at it, man. Have fun. Uh, then I think a lot of us kind of lose sight of that, whether it be because we're printing for our professions and it's kind of taking some of the joy out of it. Because making money is one of the surest ways to take the joy out of something. It could be that we're 3 weeks into this build, and I don't know where this belt's supposed to go. And damn it, where the hell did I put my Allen wrench this time? I swear to God. Been there, done that, got that t-shirt, friends. Have fun with it, guys. Don't be afraid to screw up. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ping any of us and say, hey, man, I'm lost. Help me out here. Just, you know, have fun. So, yeah, I'm going to end that sermon. So, what questions do we have, guys? Please. I mean, I, I'll subject you guys to my rants for a little bit longer, but I really want to try and help you guys out. So, the wiring. Wiring is a pain. The cable chain will make for a far more long-lasting printer. Strain or wire fatigue just about becomes a thing of the past. You don't have to worry about it again. Versus on the printer bot play I got started with. Like the first week I had it, I had wire fatigue failure and it killed one of my steppers, which sucks. Uh, Anytime you have something in motion, wire fatigue is a problem unless you do something to account for it, such as the belt chain on here. Uh, but it makes running the wires and everything more complicated. Uh, the easiest way to keep yourself straight is to run one pair at a time and go ahead and crimp ends as you're doing it. So lay everything out. Go ahead, assemble your belt chain itself, but leave yourself plenty of slack on the chain. So, like, if you know you need a, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, by the way, so don't use these numbers as gospel. If you know you need a 500 millimeter sectional belt to make your belt chain, go ahead and take a 1 meter section and take your belt chain lengths and space them out. That'll make running wiring through those chains a whole lot easier. But go ahead and run them one pair at a time and go ahead and put ends on it, get it built, and then compress everything down, cut the excess off and everything. But if you're doing it one pair at a time, that keeps you from accidentally, say, crimping this white wire into this pair as opposed to the other white wire, which is going to be a problem potentially if you're working with Cat 6, because that little stripe on some of them is hard to see. Uh, Now, it's not as the easy way is to get, wiring designed for cable chains and the like that comes already basically with every single pair being a different color scheme. That's how I did it, and that's the easy way, but that's the expensive way. If you're doing Cat 6, run each pair singly, crimp ends on it, go ahead and build it out, and then go from there. That's the easy way. But it's not. It's it's not going to be fun. I'll be honest with you. So, and then just, you know, it's kind of plug and play after that. I don't mean to sound flippant, but it's plug and play, really. You already got your ends on it, and if you know, basically you've made sure you're internally consistent, you're good. I wasn't internally consistent in one of my builds, and blew the fuse to protect my MOSFETs. If I didn't have a Duet 1.03, I would have blown a FET. So that's why I'm kind of big now on doing everything singly as opposed to assembling the total chain and then trying to crimp stuff on. Uh, just makes life easier uh, and cleaner. Uh, so how long to build a V2 on the second go around? Uh, so I am very much kind of a turtle builder for myself because I just you know I've been off work since Friday, and when I got home on Friday, my printer was a frame that had the vertical rails installed, and that was it. And then, as of this afternoon, uh, the printer is what you see as we speak. Now, the that was with me, taking off half the day on Saturday to play video games, and then not do a whole lot on Sunday. I think maybe I printed a few parts off and kind of got stuff set aside. Uh, if you have everything in place, mise en place, if you are a culinary person or French, I'm sure we have some of our Kanakistani brothers in here, so maybe even some Quebecers or French Canadians. Uh, but everything in its place. If you have everything on hand and everything ready to rock and you know what you're doing, you could go from a pile of parts to a built printer in a weekend. Uh, Now, it's going to be kind of a long weekend. The wiring is what's going to take a while. But if you had someone say build your belt chain for you, and go ahead and get that tensioned out, and everything else you just got sitting in boxes ready to rock, you could get up and running in a weekend, I'd say. Uh, so does that answer your question? Yeah, if you have a kit or you know everything else, 3 days realistically. If you're diving in for the first time, if this is literally well, let me back up for a second. As much as I love the V2 design, as much as I think it is amazing and awesome, and the things it brings to the table are really things that a lot of people have been struggling with for years and years and years and solves a bunch of problems, it is not what I would recommend as your first 3D printer build. It is, there's a lot of things on here that just you need some experience to do. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying it's going to take you more time, and there's the potential for you to break more. Uh, I say this is an expert level build, and this is not trying to sound elitist or snobby or anything else. I'm just saying that it is not a first printer build. Uh, so realistically, if this is like your first serious build, like you know your way around 3D printers, you know your way around printed parts and extrusion and wiring and everything else, I would say plan on 2 weekends, you know, like 2 full weekends. So, you know, 96 hours. And that's, to go from a pile of parts to actually something up and running and slinging plastic. Like that's, you're running your test cube. And people who built the V2, if you're in the channel, jump in and say, hey, yeah, that sounds about right. Or, yeah, dude, you're full of crap. So I'm kind of running out of steam at this point. It's getting to be 10:30 my time, and I've been running for almost 3 hours now. So seriously, guys, do you have any questions? Uh, if you do, dump them in Slack, dump them in the chat here. Let me know, and we'll go from there. As I said, I'm going out of town tomorrow. Couple of days. Just I need some time out of town and out of the office to clear my head because starting a new job. But I'll try and do something on Sunday. I make no promises, but I'll try, and I'll be on Slack on and off, so I can answer questions there too. But what can I do, guys? What do you want to know? So what happens to my Y belt chain when I move the carriage all the way forward? Well, let's see. Hmm. So I've got a feeling I know what's going on. So this is what my Y belt chain looks like all the way forward. You may have a few too many links in your Y belt chain, and which is why it's hitting that front rail. Oh, learning moment. So we specify 40 by 40 by 10 fans for your hot end. This is why. If you use a 40 by 40 by 20, or someone suggested a 40 by 40 by 40 server fan, you will lose print area. That's up to you. So I suppose this is that point in the stream where every other streamer would be imploring you to like and subscribe and click the bell button and use their affiliate links and all this other crap because that's what all of them do because that's their job and this is a hobby to me and I'm doing this because it's fun. So I'm not going to say all of that. I am going to say that if you've learned something useful tonight, tell a friend about it. Don't tell them about the stream. Tell them what you learned. Teach them. Teach them what you've learned so they don't have to make the same mistakes you do, so they can learn from your mistakes. Uh, if you haven't learned anything useful, I'm sorry for taking up 3 hours of your time. And actually, I really don't care because I probably helped someone else out. So if I didn't help you, eh, you got what you paid for out of it. Have a nice night. And if you're watching this and you're thinking about a V2, which I'm pretty sure you are because this has only been published in V2's communities and the Voron community as a whole, uh, you know, I I really want to encourage you, even though I was just talking about how this is not an easy build. I really want to encourage you to drive through it and to really dive into it because the finished product, guys, just look at the thing. It's it looks cool, and if you've got a 3D printer otherwise, you and I both know how much of a pain in the rear it is to get that bed perfectly level, especially when you're dealing with a 300 by 300 bed. You have to break out the feeler gauges, and of course you're doing it at temperature, so you've got like, you know, burn marks on the back of your hands from where you accidentally hit the hot end and all this other crap. This just does it for you. So you've got that. Then you've got the linear rails on it, so it's dead quiet. Literally, the only noise on mine is because I had one or two T-nuts hanging out in there that were loose, and so I'd have this little phantom rattle every now and again. But otherwise, I mean, you've got a machine that's dead quiet, uh, even under ZMOS, which is the noisiest part of a V1, uh, with everything that's printable. and everything that's basically commercial off the shelf. I mean, you have to mod the dowel pins for the axles for the Mobius system. Not bad. That's 5-10 minutes with a Dremel tool or an or a bench grinder, and you're good to go there. But I mean, you've got a freaking awesome printer for what you've got into it, and there's a couple other things that are coming soon. Not soon TM, but soon. That may will really bring some really cool stuff. I mean, you've got the BMG Obvious that Hack Doggo's designed that I think is going to give a whole lot better filament control. Not that the Mobius is any slouch, but I mean, I've seen the Mobius printing TBU. All right, so you've got a Bourbon system running a flexible. Yes, it's slow. Yes, retractions have been minimalized. I get it. But a Bourbon printing flexibles? What? Yeah, seen it done. Uh, so, I mean, you've got the dial system to tension everything. I mean, how many other systems make it easy to tension a belt? I'll wait. Crickets? Anybody? Or is that just me and my tinnitus? That's what I thought. And I'm not saying all this to be like down on other printer designs. I'm saying that the design you guys have chosen to start poking at and chosen to start working with is a phenomenally solid design. So don't get discouraged if something's not quite going your way for a little bit. Take a step back, take a night off, take a couple of nights off. I've done it several times. Dive back in. Don't get discouraged too much. That's why we're here. That's why we answer your questions. And keep learning, keep doing, keep building. So, with that, guys, I'm going to kind of hang out for about 5 more minutes. If you have questions, drop them in. But otherwise, have a good night or a good morning if, you're on some other side of the planet. Drive on. They're real. All right, best way to air bridge the AB wire modules. Uh, you can kind of see mine back there. Uh, if you can't, I just basically run them how you can and zip tie it. Some there words at them. If you use some wire loom, that'll help it. But that is like one of the few quirks of this design that's not really great. Uh, I'd say just get it tight, put some wire loom on it, and call it good. That's just me though. All right. With that, good night, y'all.